B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah. First, I'd like to thank Rabbi Zitron and Chacham Shmuli for arranging the Shiur, Baruch Hashem. We had this whole tour of Shiur Torah this last week, every night, Baruch Hashem, a different Shiur, a different location, a lot of chidushim, a lot of interesting things that Am Yisrael needs to find out, because apparently we're in a generation where on one end, we're in Yemei HaMashiach, we're at the end of days, and you don't necessarily need to be too brilliant to realize that we're at the end of days. If you just look at the world around you, you watch the news for 5 minutes, you realize that the world is not the same anymore. If you want to watch the political world, you notice that in the Gemara Masechet Sotah, page 49, it gives you a list of things that are going to happen at the end of times, things that are going to happen right before the Mashiach shows up. I did a shiur about this on Sunday in Staten Island in Shiur Torah, and it's a mamash. We went over each one of the items on the list, and when you read it, it's like reading the newspaper. Mamash like reading the newspaper. Everything that the Chachamim said is going to happen is happening. One of them is that the leaders of the world, the political leaders of the world, are going to go against the nation. Now, generally, this is against logic, because the politicians are people that they don't just get their job just because. We have to vote for them. So, if we vote for them, then technically they should serve us. They should do things for our own interest, not for their interest. But as generation after generation, the corruption continues, gets worse and worse. The only difference between today and if you just say, let's say 300 or 400 years ago, is that today they do it with a smile. Today they tell you that you're your friend, please vote for me, vote for a change, and the next thing they know, they're doing everything in their power to destroy your life. One of the recent laws that was passed, that's slowly but surely, if Hashem lets it happen, is going to destroy civilization and bring us back to Sodom and Gomorrah stage, is that they passed a law in the United States that now you have to allow children in public schools to go to the bathroom that they feel most comfortable. So if the boy feels comfortable in the girl's bathroom, Ashrav, what's the problem? No one actually thought that rape is going to increase as a result of this. I guess it's a chidush. You have to actually have an IQ of above 5 to know that this is going to increase crime. But this is why several states, I think it's 8 different states, actually have an IQ above 5, and they realize this is going to happen, so they're suing the government. What's going to happen, we don't know. But you're seeing little by little society is changing. Less than a year ago, they also passed a law that they wanted to remove the 10 Commandments. There was a statue of the 10 Commandments. And they wanted to, in a government building, and they wanted to remove it. So we're not only removing logic, but we're also going, we don't really need Hashem anymore. I would not be surprised if the next round of bills that the government prints are no longer going to say, in God we trust. They're going to say, thanks to our hard work, thanks to the president, thanks to the stock market, thanks to whoever they come up with. Not God. Even though technically most people that read the dollar bill and they see in God we trust, they usually think that they mean, it's the dollar is God. Because unfortunately in our society, most people do treat the dollar like it's God. They chase the dollar more and more and more, like I did for much of my life, as if it is God. So when you see that, and on the other end, if you see the war that's happening in the world that's quiet, but it's happening, there are thousands of people being killed, quietly. If you just look at what's happening in Syria and the civil war that's happening, No one is mentioning that over 250,000 Syrian citizens died last year by their own government. No one seems to care. No one seems to think this is actually valid or important. And unless you actually look for it, you're not going to find it. So propaganda is increasing also. The only thing you do see on the news on a regular basis is increased anti-Semitism. You're seeing Hashem use his number one tool of anti-Semitism, that if anyone wants to look, was originally created in Parashat Shmot. In the book of Exodus, the first parasha, it was the first time that anyone specifically went against the Jews. At that time we were Israelites. But anti-Semitism in America, in a recent study, they confirmed that at least 40% of Americans, our allies, are considering themselves anti-Semitic. If our allies are such good friends, you could only wonder what our enemies think of us. But this is all Yad Hashem. This is all in the hands of Hashem. It has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with them. It has to do with our actions. But Hashem needs to use these tools. It's a hard topic for people to talk about. People don't like it. People don't like to talk about Germany and the Holocaust. But the reality of it is that this happens. This is Hashem. When someone asks, how could Hashem, where was Hashem during the Holocaust? The very simple answer is, he did it. Just like he created man in the beginning of time, and he created the world, and he created the Torah 974 generations before he created the world, he also did this. Nothing different. Why? Because of what he said in the Torah. Last week's parasha, in America we're a little bit of a lag behind Israel. We read Parashat Bechukotai. Parashat Bechukotai is one of two parashot in the Torah that people don't really like to read. In our grandparents' generation and previously before that, these two parashot that are full of curses or punishments used to be read extra loud. People would scream them instead of just reading them with the regular voice. They would actually yell them out as loud as possible. Why? Because yir'ah, fear of Hashem, is a necessary foundation in order to believe in Him. If you have no yir'ah, you have nothing. Chazal says that a connection to Hashem that's only based on yir'ah is an incomplete connection. It's incomplete. It's good, it's a connection nonetheless. You're still getting some battery power, but it's incomplete. You're not going to get to full power. Your iPhone's going to get to 60%. But a connection to Hashem only based on ahava, only based on love, is no connection at all. It's impossible. There's no such thing. Why? Why does Chazal say it's impossible to just love Hashem and not fear Him? I love Hashem. Everyone thinks they love Hashem. You ask any half-naked woman walking in the street that's half Jewish or even not, do you love Hashem? She says, yeah, of course I love God. He's the best. Everyone loves God except the atheists that created their own religion of not believing in anything, which is a different topic of its own. You ask religious people, not religious people, everyone can say, I love Hashem. It's very easy to say, I love Hashem. But to show Hashem we love Him is a different story. Chazal says it's impossible to love Hashem without fearing Him. Why? Because you cannot love something when you don't know what it is. Which means that if you knew just a little bit that we can know, we can't really understand Hashem, but the little bit that we can know through His Torah, of what He is, and what He's in control of, which is everything, whether it's the cells in your body, or the speech that comes out of your mouth, or the money that's in your pocket, or the wife you're going to marry, or whether you're going to live another week or not, or whether you come into the world, male or female, rich or poor, everything is in His power. When you realize He's in control of everything, how could you not fear? If I really believed that He's in control of every single thing that moves, every single thing that doesn't move, every single thing that I see, and every single thing that I don't see, everything, of course I'm going to fear Him. Because I know that even if you want to look at it just scientifically, we said it in last night's Shiur, every one of us has proteins in our body. Trillions and trillions and trillions of proteins. In order for your body to function, it requires these proteins. Everyone says, eat chicken, eat meat, you need protein. So, that's the source, but what do we do with these proteins? In your body, you have an infinite amount of proteins. But every one of these proteins needs to go through something called a protein fold. Meaning that they need to fold precisely in a way that's exact. And if they just miss a little bit, like for example, you see this book, if I close it like this, then it's like that. But if you just throw it around, it could close in a little bit of a different way. It's still closed. Not the same with the protein fold. If one of these proteins folds a little bit off, just a little, half a centimeter, half a millimeter, shem, that's where disease comes from. Blindness, being crippled, not being able to breathe, not being able to move blood, not being able to function. Just one. Not trillions, not 5, not 500, one. Who's in charge? Who's in charge of folding all of these? The same Hashem. So if I know He's in charge of these protein folds that I never took, never really cared about until now, I should be scared. So if I know just a little bit about Hashem, obviously I have to be scared. Once I'm scared because of the Almighty, then we can start a relationship. Then we can say, okay, now I know what I'm dealing with to some extent. Let's see what else you say. So He gave us a love letter. It's called a Torah. It gives us instructions. Torah in Hebrew also means orah, means instructions. Instructions how to live. Instructions how to succeed. Instructions how to be happy. Instructions how to get to eternal happiness. And also instructions how to get to eternal suffering. Same instructions. Instructions for everything. Everything and anything you could ever want is in the Torah. Anything and everything that has any good in it has to have a source in the Torah. Whether it's a statement, a thought, anything has to have a source in the Torah. Nothing new is created under the sun, as Shlomo HaMelech has told us. So now, once we've started this relationship, fearing Hashem is the beginning. Eventually that fear gets to a point where you start kind of liking Him too. Little by little, maybe you fall in love. But when you fall in love with your wife, Bezrat Hashem, anyone's not married, may have a zivug right away, keep us away from sins and get us to do the first mitzvah in the Torah, boo. We need more Jews. Fall in love. In the beginning, it's passionate, it's nice, it's amazing. But if you ask a newlywed couple how much they love each other, they'll tell you a lot. How much do you know about each other? Not so much. Because you don't have experience. But if you ask an old rabbi, 75 years old, 80 years old, it's been with his wife for 60 years. How much do you love your wife? Can't describe it. A lot. A lot. That was 60 years ago was a lot. A lot. What's a lot? She's part of me. How much do you know about your wife? Nothing. How do you know nothing? Because everything that I know about is not enough because there's so much more to her. Discovering her new over and over again. She's amazing. That's what you can see, mamash. You see the love between an old Rav and his wife is much, much better than a 20-year-old that just got married and thinks that he won the lotto. Why? Because the connection has moved from physical to spiritual. And a spiritual connection is eternal. And that takes time. So little by little we gain this love. But eventually we get to a stage of the highest level of yirah, the highest level of fearing of Hashem, which is not fearing of punishment only, but fearing of hurting the connection. Hurting the connection between us. A person is not going to raise his voice to his wife, if he's a normal human being, not because he's afraid she's going to slap him. If she's a normal human being, hopefully she's not going to slap him. But because he fears that it's going to hurt the connection. Someone gets to a point where they don't want to sin, not because they fear that Hashem is going to punish them in this world, next world, and all of these things. They fear that maybe I'm going to disconnect from Him. And anyone that knows even a little bit about connecting to Hashem knows that disconnecting from Him for even a minute is mamash Gehinom in this world. Without Hashem in your life, you have zero. I lived like that most of my life. And you only know the value of something when you don't have it. Once you got to the highest level of yirah, which is fearing hurting the connection, then you can begin to think about loving Hashem. Then, the highest level of yirah, according to Chazal, is the beginning of loving Hashem. It's the beginning of ahavat Hashem. So how come you hear so many teachers, rabbis, and so on, writing books and teaching about how you should love Hashem, love Hashem, love Hashem, love Hashem? I don't know. I can't really answer for all of them. All I can tell you is that it's an illusion for most people in our generation to start with loving Hashem. It's just not possible according to Chazal. Not me. It's not my opinion. Eventually you can get there. And eventually you should get there. And that's what you're supposed to, mamash, mesirut nefesh, sacrifice your life to get there. But nonetheless, one of the major issues we have in our generation today is that because we are constantly trying to fit in, we've become a politically correct society. In a politically correct society, you cannot find the truth. In a politically correct society, you only find things that don't hurt people's feelings. So today's shiur is not just going to be about what I just talked about. That was just an intro. But it's really going to be about something that's a much more difficult topic that is unspoken of in the English language. I only found this out when I looked for it myself. It's called wasting seed. There's obviously other topics we'll throw in as well. But wasting seed, if you notice, anyone that watches Hebrew lectures online, there's a sea of them. A few really strong rabbis have told the people the truth, whether it's from the Zohar, Sifrei Chachamim, Gemara, Torah Bichtav, many, many sources, which we'll go over many of them. In the English language, sadly, I became the third person to speak about it publicly just a few months ago. There's the shiur that I made, which is about an hour shiur or so, a few months ago. Baruch Hashem, very, very popular. I think it's my top shiur. There's Rabbi Alon Nava that made a few small clips about it, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and some others a little longer. And then there's Rabbi Mizrahi, who's been telling the truth for the last 22 years, also has a few clips about it, and he also has a shiur out there that's about it. The fact that I've only been giving lectures for the last couple of years, and I became the third one out of thousands of rabbis that speak the English language, is sad. Why? Because according to Chazal, there's no sin greater. Obviously there's Shabbat, but aside from that, there's no sin greater than Zera Levatala. There's no sin greater than wasting seed. Chazal says, and we'll go over it with some sources, it's the equivalent of idol worship, including incest, including Chilul Hashem, and a few other small ones, all together in one package. It's a nice package deal. Most people don't know this. Every teenager has this problem. Every guy that's in his 20s has this problem. In the 30s, many do. And this sin continues for generation after generation. And even sometimes people that are married, who don't know how to conduct themselves with the Torah life, also in the same problem. So we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to provide you some sources. But the first thing I'd like to provide you is a reason of why rabbis don't talk about it from the Torah. Because Hashem, obviously, in His infinite wisdom, wanted to give us information that's eternal. As it says in the Gemara Masechet Megillah, although there are over 1.2 million prophets throughout history, at least 1.2 million prophets throughout history, only 55 are mentioned in the Tanakh. 48 males, 7 females. So we ask Hashem, why? Why only 55? What, the Torah of the 1.2 million wasn't good enough? What happened to them? What happened to their prophecies? Maybe we want to see it. Answer, the prophecies of the 1.2 million, or the majority of them, was only relevant to their generation. Kal vachomer, we understand from here that the 55 we do have, the information is relevant for eternity. No one can say that just because Moses didn't have a car, that's the reason why he didn't drive on Shabbat. He didn't drive on Shabbat because it's not allowed. It's not allowed today. It wasn't allowed back then. It's never going to be allowed. So the conservative and the reforms and the fake religious that drive to the Knesset on Shabbat thinking they're doing a mitzvah should know this is a very, very big mistake. You're better off staying home, never going to a synagogue one day in your life than turning on the car for half a second. I actually have one of my students, he's in the car business, and he sent me, he knows he's an engineer, and he sent me a very complex spreadsheet showing how many actual fires are being ignited every time you just press the gas, based on the RPMs of the car, based on how fast you're driving, and so on. The minimum, the highest is tens of thousands, but the minimum, the first number that I see was 3,000, just by pressing the gas.
Combustion.
Yeah. This is a problem. So, one time you press the gas, you lit 3,000 fires. Which, by the way, is 3,000 sins. It's 3,000 separate sins. It's not one sin. It's 3,000 separate sins. You press the brake, press the gas, somebody goes to Beit Knesset, they made 1.5 million averot. Which is a little bit of a problem to show up to Olam Haba with that kind of account. Because the Olam Haba, there's two of them. There's the good one and not so good. Jeremiah told us some information that can help us today. Jeremiah tried, like all prophets, his main job of a prophet is to do kiruv. To bring the nation back to Hashem, to wake them up, and to tell them the full story. Tell them the truth. Whether they do it or not is irrelevant. I'm going to tell you the truth today. Whether you listen or not is your choice. But at least you'll have a choice based on information. At least it's going to be an educated decision. Whether you sin, you don't sin, it's not my problem. But at least you'll know. And that's the one thing that someone took away from me. Many people took away from me before I did tshuva. They never told me. I can't tell you that I would have listened to them. I was in a different world. I had millions and millions of dollars. I had a company to run. My ga'ava was a little bit higher than earth. I can't tell you that I would have listened. But it's still a 50-50 shot. No one can tell me that I definitely wouldn't have. And I know myself that maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't. Either way, it's always a 50-50 shot, which means it's never your job. It's never your job to decide for people. There's a Gemara, there's a Divrei Chazal that says that if you know that someone is not going to listen, it's better not to tell them because at least their sin is shogeg. Shogeg. Not a big deal. It's the accidental sin. This is a problem. This is a misunderstanding. Why? Because they also miss the Mishnah, which precedes it. It's before. It's the beginning of the oral Torah. In Pirkei Avot, everyone knows Pirkei Avot, no? You know Pirkei Avot? It says that a sin that's accidental, a shogeg, that comes from lack of learning, turns into mizid, turns into purpose. So you didn't know, fine, you didn't know. You don't have to know, but you have to learn. You are commanded to learn. Now, if you didn't know because you didn't want to learn, then your sin is not shogeg. It's mizid. It's on purpose. There's no such thing as I could just show up to Hashem ignorant. No such thing. So all of these people, whether they call themselves rabbis or they call themselves something else, that are telling people, no, this whole generation is anusim, and it's full of people that are miskenim, and they don't know, and they're this, and they're that. It's nonsense. According to Hashem's information, it's 100% nonsense. You don't have to take my word for it, you can see it from the Torah itself. You learn it, you're going to see it. And Be'ezrat Hashem will learn today. רפאני אדוני וערפה, הושיעני ואבשע, כי תהילתי אתה. Heal me, Hashem, and I will be healed. Save me, Hashem, and I will be saved, for you are my praise. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 14. What is Jeremiah telling us here? The background story of why Jeremiah is crying to Hashem is because Jeremiah tried to do kiruv, but kiruv the right way. He told the people the truth. He found the tribe of Ephraim wasting seed. Bunch of Reshaim wasting seed. And he rebuked them. Told them, this is the worst thing on earth. You're crazy. Hashem said, this is guaranteed Gehinom. This is Avodah Zarah. This is horrendous. This is going to kill you in this world and the next. They went against him. They went against him and tortured him. He says, Hashem, heal me. They're torturing me. For what? I'm trying to do your work. I'm trying to tell the people the truth. This is what I get. These people are going against me. I'm trying to help them and they're going against me. Just like people that watch some of my shiurim, they go against me also. Just like they've been doing it for Rav Mizrahi for 22 years, or anyone that speaks the truth. They go against you. I have some people that actually take clips of my videos and they write different descriptions. No, this is what he says. It's actually, if you watch the video, it's very good clips. It's the truth. They just want to translate it a different way. I actually use some of their clips for myself and I publicize them. It's good clips. You don't want to believe it? It's your choice. It's not my problem. I'm not making up anything. Everything comes from the Torah. If it's my opinion, I tell you, it's my opinion. It's obvious it's my opinion. So Jeremiah did the same thing, but obviously, if I could be his nail, I would be happy. But nonetheless, they're torturing him. How much are they torturing him? If we fast forward to chapter 20, verse 14. ארור היום אשר יולדתי בו, יום אשר ילדתני עמי, אל יהי ברוך. Cursed be the day on which I was born. May the day on which my mother bore me not blessed. Jeremiah gets to the point where he curses the day he was born. Shem. How could someone so holy, so pure, so amazing, get to a point of cursing the day that he was born? The Midrash that was actually written by his son, Ben Sira, say that this was the day that the tribe of Ephraim didn't just go against Jeremiah, but they told him, you have two choices. They surrounded him, overpowered him, so you have two choices. You either waste seed just like us, right now, or you're going to see a real live Sodom and Gomorrah. And what they did in Sodom and Gomorrah, the same thing they did in Tel Aviv just a few days ago with the gay parade. They threatened to rape him. So after forcing him to waste seed, he was really considered anus. He cursed the day that he was born. Why is it so bad? Why does Hashem care so much if we waste seed? In last week's parasha, Hashem gave us a little bit of a secret. That was a nice chidush I got that I think you'd like. After telling us each level of punishment, we have 5 levels of punishment. It starts from losing our money. And Hashem Erachem, the last level, says that as it happened in Bet HaMikdash, we're going to get to such starvation, Hashem Erachem, we'd have to eat our children. That's what happened in Bet HaMikdash. He wasn't kidding. But if you notice, before each section of punishment, Hashem says the same thing. V'im be'elet lo tivasru li ve'alachtim imi keri. Translation: if despite these, meaning despite the punishment that I gave you in a previous level, you will not be chastised towards me, meaning you still don't have yirat shamayim, you still don't care, you're still sinning, and you behave casually with me, then I too will behave towards you with casualness. Now the pshat of casualness, according to Chazal, so we pick and choose whichever mitzvot we want to keep. Kosher, yeah, you know what, I live in Brooklyn, there's a kosher place in every corner, it's not that hard to keep kosher. You have to mamash not want to eat kosher to eat non-kosher in Brooklyn. In different places around the world, maybe a little more difficult, but in today's world, it's pretty easy to eat kosher. Anyone with an ounce of emunah knows that Hashem pays for it anyway. But Shabbat, not so sure. I'll keep half a Shabbat. Hashem should be happy I kept half a Shabbat. Wasting seed? Nah, that's not for me. That's for people that are machmirim. That's tzaddikim. I'm not at that level. Watching my eyes? That's for Rav Ovadia, Rav Steinman, Gdolei Ador. They watch their eyes, not for me. You pick and choose. Netilat Yadayim, I can do that. Netilat Yadayim, I can do Netilat Yadayim. Even when I get out of the bathroom, I do Netilat Yadayim. And you pick and choose. Hashem says, you treat me with casualness. You make a joke of my Torah. You think it's a choice to keep all the mitzvot. For that, it's a separate punishment. Violating my Torah is one punishment. Treating it with casualness is a completely separate punishment. But now, what's the chidush? He kept saying, "Ve'alachtem eimi keri." Keri, for anyone that's learned a little bit of Gemara, also knows that it has another meaning. If we go to Sefer Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 23, verse 10, כי תצא מחנה על אויביך ונשמרת מכל דבר רע, כי יהיה בך איש אשר לא יהיה טהור מקרה לילה ויצא אל מחוץ למחנה, לא יבוא אל תוך המחנה, והיה לפנות ערב ירחץ במים, וכבוא השמש יבוא אל תוך המחנה. When a camp goes out against your enemies, you shall guard against anything evil. If there will be among you a man who will not be clean because of nocturnal occurrence, he shall go outside the camp, he shall not enter the midst of the camp. When it will be toward evening, he shall immerse himself in the water, meaning going to the mikveh, and when the sun sets, he may enter the midst of the camp. So a nocturnal occurrence, meaning a seminal emission, is also called keri, Baal keri, someone that has a waste seed, but unintentionally. In street language, they call it having a wet dream. The Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah talks about this verse, page 20b. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught in the Bereta. V'nishmarta mikol davara, which is this verse we just talked about, which meant, and you shall beware of anything evil. Shelo yaher adam bayom v'yavo lidei tumah balayla. This teaches that a person should not think immoral thoughts by day and come thereby to tum'ah at night. When the Gemara is mentioning davara, evil, it's not talking about, think about bad things happening in the world. Maybe there's going to be a war. Maybe I'm going to lose all my money in the stock market. Maybe my wife's cheating on me or is going to leave me. Maybe my husband hates me. Maybe my kids are going to fail at school. No. They're not talking about davara like that. Davara, Chazal says in the Gemara, he's talking about, thinking about something erotic, inappropriate. Why? Because he didn't watch his eyes. When he didn't watch his eyes, of course he's going to think of something erotic at night. So much so that the Shulchan Aruch says, or the Mefarshim on the Shulchan Aruch say, better said, if someone has an erotic dream, even if the woman in his dream is his wife, he wakes up out of the dream and he wants to be with his wife. Halacha, not allowed. Until he cools down. And he doesn't have those thoughts anymore, then he can do what he wants. Then he's a normal person again. Why? Because if he commits relations with his wife at that moment that he's still hot from the dream, shem, what can happen to the child? The child can have partial control by shedim, by demons. Why? Because they contributed to making the child. Which, by the way, just so you know, according to Chazal, every single woman you see in your dreams, including if she looks like your wife, is actually no one less than the Satan's wife herself. That's her job. Our job is to take your seed and create a bunch of soldiers to torture you in this world and the next. So when you give her that seed, you're creating an enemy for yourself. This is kind of scary. It's just the beginning.
Can I ask you a question? In your dream, doesn't your soul actually leave your body in your sleep? Isn't it?
Not all of it.
No?
If your entire soul left your body, you would die. It's only most of the soul. There's still a part of your soul stays with you, and part of the soul goes up to Shemaim and gets the news of what is the outcome for tomorrow. Meaning that you go up there and you tell the Bet Din of Shemaim, what did I do today? And they'll tell you, okay, based on these deeds, tomorrow you're going to have a very difficult day. So that's why you see sometimes people wake up, Tisha B'Av, nothing happened, but they're already in a bad mood. They woke up, they see their wife, she's happy. Hey, how are you? Good morning, honey. How you doing? Don't talk to me. What did you do? What did I do? You're already in a bad mood. Why? Because you got bad news from Shemaim and your soul knows it. You don't know it consciously, but subconsciously you know it. You know you're going to have a tough day. So now when someone is having these dreams, it's their fault. There's no such thing as having these dreams just because. It's because you saw something, either during that day or during your life. But in general, it's usually during a recent time. According to Gemara, Masechet Brachot, Most dreams are complete nonsense. They have zero meaning. Once in a blue moon, someone can have a dream that could actually be a partial prophecy. But the ones that are nonsense, what's the nonsense? What does it mean, nonsense? What's shtuyot? It's a combination of the things you saw. You saw an elephant today, so you're going to see a woman with an elephant head. You saw somebody running, you're going to see, a little bunny running. You're going to see all types of strange things in a dream. They don't really make sense, but it's a combination of all the things you actually saw in your real life. If you looked at a putza, you looked at an immodest woman, that's what you're going to see. And sometimes you'll see her that you saw on the street, and sometimes the Satan will actually, or the Satan's wife will actually have your wife's face. So you're going to think, oh, you know what, I'm not making a sin, it's my own wife. It's not your wife. And what happens at that point, Hashem Erachem, is even if you waste the seed, it's already a big problem. Even if you get out of the dream, you survived the dream, you didn't waste seed. You're lucky, you see your wife right next to you. And your wife loves you, and she wants to hug you, she has no clue what dream you had. Not allowed to touch her. Not allowed to touch her. Why? Because according to Ari HaKadosh, which we know most of the secrets part of the Torah because of him, he says that all of the crazy people, people who have mental problems, are usually controlled by shadim. They're usually controlled by demons. And that's why you see a lot of them say they see things, they hear things. They do. They're not imagining it. They do. They do see things. They do hear things. You can't see it because you're normal. But they do. Sometimes it's the fault of the parents. Sometimes it's a gilgul. Now, why does Hashem care so much about this keri? He tells us here that on one end in this parasha, when he says "Ve'alachta imi keri," on one end means treating me with casualness, right? Means with casualness. But on another end, it says, not only did you sin, but you're still wasting seed. Okay, you didn't do netilat yadayim. Fine, I got it. You didn't do bracha. You stole from me the food you ate. You didn't do bracha. You stole from Hashem. Anyone that enjoys anything in this world without saying a bracha, Chazal says they stole from Hashem. Have to do a bracha. You didn't do bracha. Fine. You violated Shabbat, Hashem Yerachem. You worshipped an idol, Hashem Yerachem. You did all those things. Okay, you're going to get your punishment for it. Fine. But not only did you do that, ve'alachtem imi keri, you still have the audacity to waste seed, meaning it's at a different level. It's a different level. It's a different world. Now, just so far, we've been talking for a little while. Baruch Hashem.